Sir, you're about to see something really special.
Really thought this part of my life was behind me. Frenzy disappeared with the drinking 3 years ago. Why now? This makes no sense, and I'm right on the verge of freaking out.
Back from your life,
these people can be animals.
what you burn,
Thingy's out.
some bitter things you should never
Good cheese.
learn. Wallow through the days.
Remember, cosplay's not consent.
So here's to me. Congratulations, me. Yay, me.
This would all be so much easier if I was hammered. Hammered.
Won't be there anymore. You can take away the anger, but you leave behind the pain. It's your soul I
New ventures are always scary.
feel till I'm melting
Blah, blah, blah. Something positive and uplifting.
tomorrow. But the hurt will still remain. In your soul I'll live forever till I'm melting in.
Don't miss our new film, The Love Song of William H. Shaw, coming soon to a streaming service near you. Hey everyone, this is Cliff from Talking Pondo. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up about spoilers on the show. We do talk about the films in a certain amount of detail, so you may want to watch the film first and then come back if you're not a fan of spoilers. Also, every now and then there's a little bit of adult language, so we wanted to give you fair warning on that. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we really appreciate you listening. Welcome to Season 2 of Making Pondo and Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty give each other a film to watch and talk about them in detail. Some episodes will include a special guest. Making Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty talk to people they have worked with and discuss their experiences on set. All right, Marty, that's us. We're back.
Yes. Penultimate episode of the season.
The final
Yeah. Next to the last here.
countdown.
Oh, yeah. You can't do any more. We'd have to pay
We
EMI
have to
or
pay
ask.
royalties. Yeah, it's true.
That's episode 35, season 2. Overall, 71. Which means today is movies 113 and 114, I think. Wow, it's amazing to think we've watched that many movies already.
It's surprising. Yeah.
You gotta
Very
do
surprising.
goofy. You gotta do goofy math because of the talking
Right.
or the making episodes. I mean, yeah.
Makings, yeah.
So you subtract 16, and then you double what's left. Pondo math.
It's a mystery to us, folks.
It is. But one thing's for certain, it's the next to the last episode of season 2, which is crazy. Going into season 3 for whatever that's worth in 2 weeks. And what I mean is, there's just arbitrary ways of us keeping track of things. It's not like, yay, season premiere or something. But then again, you never know, because I think we're going to kick the season off with a guest. And you'll see who that guest is when that week arrives, I'm sure.
Well, the Fortnite kids are used to multiple seasons, you know. Like we're trying to appeal to our younger audience, you know, of none.
Yeah. Every 36 episodes, it's another season. It makes the Letterboxd page more attractive. I don't know. Anyways, I'm Marty as always.
And I'm Cliff.
And this is Talking Pondo without guest, where we give each other movies to watch and talk about them in detail, as you hear in the intro there. So we like to watch a wide variety of movies. Boy, we've watched a bunch of different things over these last 100+ films, and I don't think there's any one theme or anything. And this week is no different.
Yeah, it's been the range from like really bad to all the way to really great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really great. It's wild.
Mm-hmm. And today's choices made me think about some of the previous movies we've watched, where some I've seen before, some I've never seen before, but making me reevaluate what exactly does make a movie one of the best of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people tend to say Godfather, or Godfather Part 2 is like the greatest movie ever made, or Citizen Kane, name all the classics. But the more I think about it, and the more movies we watch on a regular basis, you just hit greatest. There's no best movie of all time. It's you stand alongside each other because you managed to hit the thing that's just the perfection part of it. Like an example, I thought back on Sorcerer, a movie that I only gave 3 stars to, but
3.5, something like that. Yeah,
there's multiple moments in that movie of just complete all-time brilliance throughout it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I know what you're saying.
It just makes me reevaluate things and realize that maybe even sometimes a 3-star movie can have some of the greatest elements ever put to film in it, but maybe it has just like one perfect thing in it. But some of these all-timers have like multiple things just clicking constantly.
It's like you're saying. I think for me the ones that are 5-star that are the ones that you never think about the whole. I mean, and I don't mean think about the movie, but you don't ever think about how the movie was made or the shot or the thing. Everything just seems to, or maybe you do, and that's part of it. But it clicks and it hits all the way through, bam, bam, to where you just get to the end of it and you're just breathless and you go, "Holy shit!"
There's certain,
and that's the moment when you know you've seen a 5-star movie. And look, 3 to 5, in my opinion. If I ever make a movie somewhere in there, I'll be really, really happy because that's a hard range to get to.
Yeah.
For me, a 3.5-star movie is something that I'm probably going to watch quite a bit.
True.
And 4-star, I'm definitely going to probably see more than once. 4.5 is probably going onto my shelf for sure, along with the 5 stars that I see. I have a copy of Night of the Hunter because it's a fucking, it's a great, I went and bought a Blu-ray of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where I just I have to have that. It's a fantastic movie, right? So, and there's modern classics coming out, I think, out there, but when you look back, I think, especially when you somehow missed it, you go, how the fuck did I miss this classic? This thing is, or sometimes a movie just has a crap load of iconic moments, but it doesn't really click all the way through. You know what I mean? That's how you get a 3.5 star, maybe, or a 4-star, where it's like, it's iconic, but it didn't click all the way through like it should have.
Those 5 stars, there's just a certain level of magic that hits in there. Like thinking back on Sorcerer, it's those moments of the extreme in that movie where the car blows up or bad car accident. There's a lot of those. Any of those shocking, it's almost like when dude gets killed in The Godfather by the fishing wire and his feet go out the windshield. Those perfect moments of just, woo. And then I realize, Godfather, Lawrence of Arabia, they're just as good as each other, but in different ways because they're both hitting that magic. They're bringing out those moments where, like you said, it completely awashes you in the product, whether you're aware that you're watching a movie or you're not. You're completely wrapped up into it because they managed to hit some level of the human experience captured. So and I wouldn't have seen some of these movies had it not been for this show. So it's a constant re-examination of cinema every week. It forces us to go to film school every week and think about film theory and structure, and it's only helped the writing process that much more. So stay tuned, people. We are having more stuff coming out, more movies, hopefully, and more podcast episodes. But anyways, not to get into the season recap, which will be happening in a few weeks when we start the next season. Talking about all the old movies.
He's just giving you a little warm up for that.
Yeah, what are today's movies? Today's movies are Before Midnight and Trainspotting. So we went indie darling today. And so it doesn't really matter to me which one we start with.
I'll tell you what, let's start with the oldest movie first. We'll start with Trainspotting.
Okay, I guess that's the natural. Okay, so Trainspotting. I had never seen this film before. Is familiar as it felt. I had never seen this film, and this was one where Cliff went, "You hadn't seen that? Jot it down. Spend it on the film in a few weeks."
Yep.
Wow, was I surprised to see that they made a movie out of the Alice in Chains Dirt album.
Yeah.
I was unaware of this movie being this movie. So what is Trainspotting from 1996?
Yeah, 96.
Wow, that predates some stuff. Yeah.
96, rated R, hour and 33 minutes. Directed by Danny Boyle, written by Irvin Welsh and John Hodge. Apparently it was a book first. Starring Ewan McGregor, Johnny Lee Miller, Ewan Brimner. Renton, deeply immersed in the Edinburgh drug scene, tries to clean up and get out despite the allure of drugs and the influence of friends. That's his log line. Let's see, storyline. A wild, free-form, Rebelacian trip through the dark recesses of Edinburgh lowlife, focusing on Mark Renton and his attempt to give up his heroin habit and how the latter affects his relationship with family and friends. Sean Connery wannabe sick boy, dim bulb Spud, psycho Begbie, 14-year-old girlfriend Diane, and clean-cut athlete Tommy, who's never touched drugs but can't help being curious about them.
Gee, we wonder how that's gonna... That's like a Chekhov's gun of a character, that guy.
Poor Tommy.
You know, I take it Tommy's not in the sequel. They made a sequel?
They did.
2017, T2, Trainspotting 2. Stay tuned, guys. We will tackle that one at some point because I am just too damn curious. It would be funny if I'd be like, next week you're watching Trainspotting 2. No, we're not going into it that quick. But speaking of movies we had previously watched, I'm really happy I threw Dr. No into the mix because I'm watching this and it's just, here we go.
Yeah. Sick boy and his fascination with Bond is it's a great little...
His Sean Connery fascination with Bond.
Yeah, his Sean Connery fascination. Yeah. There's a line in the movie where it says he's always been lacking in moral fiber. And the other guy goes, he knows a lot about Sean Connery, though. So, yeah, Trainspotting, I saw this back in, I think, 97 when it came out. And it's I think, again, we didn't normally, we go sideways through it, you know, like into a side door on a director's career like this, but I thought we'd just jump in with Danny Boyle. He did one, I think, what is it called? Idle Hands? Or
no, it wasn't Idle Hands. It was the, oh my God. And I've even seen it too. It has Ewan McGregor in it.
Same.
Shallow Grave?
Shallow Grave? Is that? Yeah. Shallow Grave. Yeah. That's the one where they bury the dude who's a lottery winner and they all split the money and they start getting paranoid with each other. Yeah.
Well, that kind of makes sense to flow into this story after that.
Yeah. But I feel like this one he really let himself off the leash. He went with a lot of camera techniques, a lot of everything. There's so much iconic stuff going on in this film. It's amazing. Everything in the film looks really good. Even when it's horrifying to look at, it still looks fucking awesome. You know, the worst toilet in Scotland is one of the most disgusting things you're ever going to see.
Oh, what was my note? A whole new level of poop jokes from Friday. Yeah, this movie says here, hold my beer. The very next year, you know, we're going to amp it up.
Fucking heroin suppositories, man. Just like, what?
Wow. It's interesting to see how old this is, 96. So they shot it in 95, probably has a 95 copyright on it. And it's like, this movie reminds me of SLC Punk and Go and Amelie and Swingers, but this movie predates all of those.
Yes.
Because this one is one of the early, Tarantino, Rodriguez, Smith, but the Scottish...
It's got that
version.
feel to it, yeah. It's got that feel to it completely.
It's like Clerks on heroin, because all his Bond references are like the pop culture part, and
it's like what Vincent Vega was doing before he came back to Los Angeles or something.
But yeah, really insane. Did you ever see The Fighter
with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like they must have been influenced by this movie as well, because all of his, withdrawals scenes in the
Yeah.
prison and all that, and the way that the character, it's like those two are kind of like one of the more realistic portrayals, even though this one is a dark comedy that's like in parts not funny at all because it's so fucking dark. But that's
It's so dark.
1996 for you. Yeah.
But it's like, but there's also there's some brilliant shit in there. Like,
Oh yeah.
when Spud is going to go for the job, and he ends up doing speed with Mark, and then he goes in, and the narration is Spud had gone and fucked up right and proper, like you should, and it was hilarious. It was and yeah, it's gross. Like, there's Spud with the shit in the bed and all that. And,
oh my, there's just so much poop in this one.
There's a lot of poop in this one, yeah. But at the same time, I want to call out early Kelly MacDonald, who is one of my favorite actresses of all time. She's also in No Country for Old Men, Gosford Park. She's a fantastic actress.
And what character was she in this one?
She was Diane. She was the girlfriend. She was the 14-year-old girlfriend. Yeah.
A lot of nudity in this film, male nudity in this film.
Yes.
So it's what I coined the Obi-Wan dong shot in the film. Which I'm sure I'm not the only person who's ever said that. And it's like, whoa, surprise! And you don't go into the movie expecting. And it's like, you don't go into this movie expecting a lot of things. So.
Obi-Wan dong. Oh my god, that's fantastic.
Yeah, like, surprise.
My wife has always been a big fan of full male frontal nudity, not because she wants to. She says not because I want to see all men naked, but at the same time, I think it's just fair. I think it's there's so many naked women in movies, there should be some naked men.
Exactly,
I get the point.
This one's very equal with that. It felt like a Clockwork Orange-ish in a way.
Well, that Moloko bar, especially that club they go to, and it's got the Moloko bar type writing on the walls and stuff, where he's talking about, I forgot her birthday, and I told her let's just move on. And he's like, oh, it's fair enough, man. And
the getting straight, and then going back, and
it's one of my notes is the first using scene. I'm really not a fan of watching people shoot up on film. But they do it mainly, especially this one, because it's so realistic.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're sitting next to somebody watching them shoot up. And that first scene but it's also kind of perfectly exaggerated so that it becomes cinema and drama, right? It's not like watching reality television. It's become cinema and drama.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's fucking art. And the lighting with just the first 10 minutes is so varied and creative. Like at one point when Mark's at the table with his parents, Danny Boyle they just put a key light on him. They don't put any fill light on it at all. They just put this bright key light on him. So there's these harsh shadows on the wall, but yet the kitchen in the background is lit normally. So it gives this weird sort of depth to it. It's fantastic. Really, really cool.
It's in that perfect example of this phrase meaning something different once again, something they wouldn't make now. Why? Well, they'd probably make a movie about fentanyl now, but back in the mid-90s when heroin was everywhere and heroin chic, this movie easily popped into the pulp culture landscape. It was very much of its time and timeless too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It really nails a lot about drug use and about addiction. And, again, poor fucking Tommy, and Mark's responsible for that shit.
Oh, of course. They're all responsible for all sorts of horrible shit.
That baby, that poor fucking baby. Oh my God.
And the baby's haunting him when he's coming down.
It's pretty well done. I mean, you can see the track that the baby's on, but when they show the baby from the back, it looks real good.
Yeah.
But when they kind of turn the head, I remember after I'd seen it, I've seen this movie so many times, but I remember at one point laughing, going, "Oh, that's kind of." But the first time you see it, it's pretty well done.
I kind of liked the fakeness of it and thought it was on purpose. Like his hallucination is like a creaky special effect or something, like yeah, you can see the string, but he's still completely terrified because he shouldn't even be seeing the string, you know, he shouldn't be seeing this at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was like a stylistic choice.
I love that park scene where they go to the park and he shoots the dog in the ass and it attacks that guy.
Oh yeah.
And because they're just talking about culture, pop culture. And it's like, this is so Tarantino.
Yeah.
It's not even funny. This is what Tarantino would do with Reservoir. He would do it with Pulp Fiction, especially, and it would make him very.
And then it goes through that Clerks filter too. So by the time it gets to this,
it's so
had
weird.
that in there as well. But we haven't gotten to Swingers yet. So what a weird piece of the puzzle here that you've shown me. It's something that goes in between a little more.
I can't believe the actor that plays Begsby is the same guy that is the actor in The Full Monty.
Oh, you know, that makes total sense now that you mention it. And that movie's from kind of around the same time period, right?
I think it is. I think it's close, yeah.
Might be a little earlier. Monty's 94 or 95? This is without anybody looking at Google or anything. Well,
all right, now I'm looking it up.
Fact checked, of course, but
97, so it's the year after this.
After, okay. The Wasteland of 97.
Pretty surprising jump. Yeah, I love that sort of casual sort of rip off of the Moloko bar at the club.
Yeah, a lot of those Kubrick elements. Kubrickian.
That line where he says, "It's me or Iggy Pop, time to decide." And he says, "Well, what'd you do?" And he goes, "Well, I already bought the tickets."
Yeah. And it's like, wow, they're more American than the Americans. They're like more fucked up than we were at the time too. But then when you think back, probably equally fucked up. But yeah, doesn't it feel like they watched this and then they went and made Go? You know, it's just like there's so many elements, you know.
Yeah, very much so. It feels like this also had a impact on like British cinema for a while too. I don't think you get Snatch without this. Maybe you don't get some of the other Guy Ritchie films because they feel very much like this.
Oh yeah.
You know?
So that's where
I'm not saying he took his aesthetic or anything from this, but it just feels like it's inspired or in a vein of film that he does.
Yeah, he has a spot on that chain of directors coming up as well, Guy Ritchie, and he pops in more towards the late 90s, aughts. So he comes in kind of after. Is that right?
Yeah.
When was Snatch? 2000?
I think that's 2000.
And Guy Ritchie might have been doing some stuff before that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I think he'd done Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Or was that after?
First, right? Wasn't it? Because that's where we get.
Yeah, I think it was
Jason Statham, right? Is that where? Wasn't he in that?
Yeah,
movie?
Now we're trying to figure out the
it's
history
kind of Kevin Bacon route here.
Yeah. Yeah, he let's see here. Yeah, he directed Lock, Stock was 98 and then Snatch in 2000.
So it's all coming up on the heels. Okay.
Yeah, it feels very much like it's coming up on the heels of this Trainspotting. It really does.
We're going to take that and some of the other stuff before and mix it again. And the next thing comes and goes, well, I'm going to take all that and mix it again. And it keeps going until we get somewhere around 03 or whatnot. And those things kind of start to peter out a little. Probably by the time we get to Fast and the Furious movies.
Yeah. There are very few trains in Trainspotting.
Yeah, what's the title mean?
I don't know.
I even did research and I never got an answer for why the movie's called that. I think if I read the book, I'd probably know.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. I mean, the one time that they do get on the train and go out there, and Tommy's like, "Come on, we're going to go for a hike to the mountain." They're all like, they just stand there at the station where the train left them going, "No," and Renton's drinking vodka and screaming about how terrible it is to be Scottish, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's more trains in the other movie. Or maybe it's the first. I'm thinking the first one, Before Sunrise, that was on a train. They could have called that Trainspotting.
Yeah, so that was, I mean, the pacing is weird. I feel like it doesn't feel like a 90-minute movie.
No.
It feels like an hour 45.
Yeah,
like they put so much in there.
It's packed.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to stay up to finish watching it. It was like, it's late, but I have a half hour left. I gotta see what the fuck happens. You know, it's just too weird. And some things are obvious, like Tommy's gonna fucking get addicted, and
what the fuck did poor Tommy do to deserve to be addicted and then get toxoplasmosis from cat shit and die?
Mm-hmm.
And then he ends up getting AIDS, right, or something like that.
Yeah,
it's
crazy. He's like the heroin Bob of the proto, because that shit came after. SLC Punk comes after. And those guys were just posers. That's why he OD'd on heroin like right away in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't have Trainspotting meet SLC Punk. They'd run right over those guys. What a wacky fucking movie. I thought I had seen it in the first few minutes, and then as it went on, it was very obvious to me that I had never seen this before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like a 90-minute music video.
I love that sinking into the floor.
Oh yeah, he went under the carpet, man. How weird is that when fucking you know who reemerged this week too? So somebody else who was
insane.
Under the carpet. Yeah.
At least Mark gets a chance to apologize to Tommy, you know.
Mm-hmm. And Tommy's an adult; he can figure this out for himself.
I love that he moves to London and becomes like a salesman, real estate guy. That cracks me up. That whole adventure into London and suddenly Sick Boy and Begbie showing up is really funny.
You know what this is? This is like if It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia was truly off the fucking deep end. They don't go as far as these guys, but they get pretty fucking close sometimes. But this is like, what if we just went all in and there was still kind of no consequence?
It's one of my favorite quotes is, music's changing, drugs are changing, people are changing. It's just a pity no one told Begsby when he's making out with that yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was just like, wow.
And he's like, Iggy Pop is still alive. He was touring last year.
It's all about aesthetics and fuck all to do with morality. It's a there's that end where he goes, I'm going to be just like you. I'm going to choose life. I'm going to choose the big screen TV. And I'm just like, yep, there it is.
Proto Fight Club.
Yep.
Now, is the Fight Club novel older than the Trainspotting novel? I wonder, because there's so many elements in Fight Club about the IKEA furniture and your plastic life and all this. It's kind of echoed in this movie, but this is before.
Yeah.
So. And who directed Fight Club?
Oh, isn't that Fincher?
Fincher, I was about to say. Oh, so what was Fincher's first movie? When does he pop up on the scene? Because he's kind of in that same weird aesthetic too, huh?
Fincher's aesthetic is really his own. I mean, he's Seven. I think he pops up.
So he's doing mid-90s fucking nihilistic weirdness too. So both him and Danny Boyle kind of beat some of these other guys to the punch by popping in the mid-90s. Still Swimming with Sharks beat both of them, though.
He's been around. I mean, he's been doing, I guess he started with, he directed Rick Springfield videos to start and did videos in the 80s. And then,
wow, he was probably at Sound City.
He did videos all the way into the early 90s, and then did Alien 3.
Alien
was his first
3. Okay, so he'd been around, kicking around longer than those guys.
92.
His career predates Tarantino and all of those. He's more of like in your Soderbergh Planes Trains guy. Yeah, Planes Trains. That flies in videotape.
7 and 95.
But that's where he really kicks in with 7. Yeah,
Fight Club in 99, so on.
7's getting quite the resurgence lately. You know, I only ever saw it once, and I was like, but I'm not too one for crime thriller can be all right sometimes. But yeah, I didn't really get into that one too much.
I think I kind of enjoyed the that they didn't do the cop partnership was different. They didn't do the normal stuff in the cop partnership, and I did find it to be a kind of a creepy movie. But anyway, jumping back onto Trainspotting.
Divergence.
The looks into the mirror in the bus bathroom when they're all, remember when they're at the end, when they're all in the bathroom, they're going to sell the heroin, and they're all in that bus, and they all go into the bathroom and they're all looking in the mirror and doing their things. That's so iconic. Like there's so much of that. That's that shot where he stops and he puts his hands on the car as he's running from the cops, and he just looks at the guy and starts laughing, and the cops tackle him. It's just like,
that's what made me feel I had seen it before. It seemed familiar without, and 29 years later, I finally watched the thing. It's weird seeing a vital piece of 90s pop culture almost 30 years after the fact.
The only thing I can say wrong about this movie is, again, maybe the baby plays a bit hokey if upon a second or a third viewing.
I think it needed to. It'd be too dark.
And then there's a very weird city montage. Like when he moves to London, there's this really long city montage of like just flashes of the city, of buildings and cities and traffic and people walking, but it lasts for like 2 minutes. It's really, really long. And it's obviously, I guess my feeling is they were like, well, we got this song, we think it's going to be a hit, so let's put this in the movie. But other than that, I can't find fault in it.
Right.
It's so well made.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you made it without all the flash, it might be a little dull if it was the same story without its pyrotechnic way of being filmed. But
yeah, well, that's what makes it. That scene where Marco D's and he falls into the carpet, and then you get this carpet view for 5 minutes until they get him to the hospital and inject him with the drugs, and he's and comes to, and you're like, damn,
Yeah, that is, it's those moments like I was talking about where it kind of they hit the nail, and that's why these things stick around.
There's so many of them. This one seems to go from one to the next to the next to the next. So there's some trivia on this. Apparently, Kelly MacDonald invited her parents, her mother and brother, to the set, and it was sex scene filming day.
Of
so
course,
apparently that was
as you do.
As you do. Apparently, the feces from the world's toilet in Scotland was made of chocolate, so it was quite pleasant. So there was nothing disgusting,
It's a Baby Ruth.
What do you give it?
The more we talk about it, the more I have the conversation help me improve my rating a little bit. I'm gonna go up to 3.5 because it does hit enough things in it that are special. It's just it's a grody kind of harsh watch, but it's still fun. It's not enough for me to go all the way up to like a 4 or something, but I'll give it a 3.5. Yeah.
I'm going to go much higher. I think it's pretty close to probably one of Danny Boyle's best films, and he's had some great ones in his career.
From the ones I've seen, I'd agree with you. Yeah.
So I'm going to go 4.5.
Okay.
I also I've seen a drug movie. I've seen a heroin movie before, but once you've seen this one, you don't need to see any of the others. There's no reason to see Requiem for a Dream or Crash.
This is way darker than Requiem for a Dream.
So much better.
It's better.
So much better.
I'm always surprised when people are like, that's like the most darkest, fucked up movie, Requiem for a Dream. And I'm like, it is?
Are you sure?
I've never known anybody to be that hard of an addict and all they do is clean their house and watch infomercials. But maybe I'm not catching the subtext or something. So
right.
Next week, Requiem for a Dream. No, I'm kidding.
Which brings us to Before Midnight.
Before Midnight.
From 2013.
2013. You may already know what this is if you listen to this show, but what is it?
Before Midnight is the third installment in a series by Richard Linklater, directed by Richard Linklater. This one was written by the two main actors and Richard Linklater, Ethan Hawke, Julie Delpy, Richard Linklater. It's from 2013. It's rated R. It's an hour and 49 minutes long. We meet Jesse and Celine 9 years on in Greece. Almost 2 decades have passed since their first meeting on that train bound for Vienna. So that's your log line. And your storyline is, it's been 9 years since we last met Jesse and Celine, the French-American couple who once met on a train in Vienna. They now live in Paris with twin daughters, but have spent a summer in Greece on the invitation of an author colleague of Jesse's. When the vacation is over and Jesse must send his teenage son off to the States, he begins to question his life's decisions, and his relationship with Celine is at risk.
All right. So where to begin? I've only seen this one time before, a few years ago when it was still relatively new, and it completely Mandela affected me in a way, because by the time I got to the end of the movie, I had remembered or focused on a different end of the movie. Now, not to jump into the end right at the beginning, but this time I feel like they are going to Chicago. But when I watched it like 7 or 6 years ago, I thought, oh, they're done, that they had broken up. But somehow I guess I just read that last part of it a little differently. But all I got to say is, we saw Predestination. We know you're a time traveler, Ethan Hawke. We saw that movie. I don't know exactly how it fits in here, but it is funny to hear him talking about a time machine again. So, 2 more movies from the Criterion Collection this week.
Yes, both Criterion selections. That's a good point. And I'll say that the both copies looked very good. Criterion's got very good scans of their films. So
yeah,
worth grabbing.
This one's a pure indie, meaning they had no studio backing whatsoever, because nobody asked for the second one they always joke about. But it reminds me of our trilogy in a certain respect, where we made that first movie, and then it's like, you're going to make a sequel to it. Well, nobody was asking for it, but we're going to do it. And then part 2, well, part 2 sets up a part 3. You got to have a part 3. So then you do the third one that wraps it all up. And so it's like, oh, I feel that kind of,
No, that's good. That's very close to exactly how it happened with ours. We did a part 2 to kind of, I don't know, move on from it, but also to finish it up.
Yeah.
Because we felt like it deserved it. And then the next thing you know, we're shooting a part 3.
It's like the characters always live in your head after you write a script, and years later, sometimes you think about them, and in some cases, you come up with another story for them, and you want to revisit them over and over again.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have so many notes. I'm just trying to figure out which one to read first. Okay, well, let's go back to the beginning a little bit here. So, the movie starts with the shot of the 2 footsteps, like we saw in the first movie, but instead of arriving somewhere, it's people departing. So it's him and his kid, and you're thinking it's going to pull back and it's going to be the 2 of them most likely, because these other movies haven't really had other characters in them. So that's a little bit of a switch that time. And it is kind of funny how there's a lot of mirroring between the various movies. Like in the previous one, Jesse was concerned about making a plane on time, and in this third one, doesn't care so much about when the plane goes or whatnot. And then you finally get to see that, oh, they are together and they have kids, and then they get in that car and they go on this. Well, it's not a one take, because there is a cutaway to the ruins shot halfway through, but like this near 12-minute continuous takes where it's
fucking more like 20, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 20 minutes in the fucking car
where they had to memorize all of that in it's very different than in the first movie, where they're walking and talking and they're more free and they're open. But here we're confined in the car, where it's kind of static and they're trapped, which is also kind of mirroring where they feel like they are in their relationship at the time too. But yeah, that is it's a way to keep your budget low, because they only shot it like 4 or 5 times, like, because they had to catch the light, so they only had so much time to shoot it. But it almost feels like a play in that respect by going.
It was so long
shot.
in the car that even the kid actors in the back couldn't stay acting asleep.
Yeah.
They woke up, and acted like they fell back to sleep and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just like, it was a long set of. I mean, that's a long time to be in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I had this cat named Cleopatra, and the kittens were drowned in a bag of ether, and it was just like, what the?
There's more of that morbidity.
Now?
There's a certain morbidness in these movies. There's a lot of death in these movies.
I'm just not buying any kid's gonna stay asleep that long. But anyways,
yeah,
her neuroticism in that movie is off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's extremely, like, it's I don't know. I mean, she was always sort of like that a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but this time it's really gone.
Everything's
off the
ramped
rails.
up. It's kind of like over the top a little bit, almost like theater acting in a way. I was going to say the walk and talk, when you do these long continual shots, they basically, it's like it's supposed to represent life and motion. Mm-hmm. But here, the way Linklater does it, it's more of like the capturing the living in the moment of the, because it's a long drive, but there's moments in it that feel like, oh, I've had that conversation, or I know what that's like to be in certain parts of, there's a certain realness to it. And the fact that these actors have known each other for so long, and they know the characters so well, their body language with each other in this movie is much more natural, because it feels like they have spent time with each other. That, like we were talking about in Trainspotting, where there's moments where you forget what you're watching, and it's just like, it's almost too real in some parts, especially when we get to like the hotel room that starts as a love scene and then turns into one of the most realistic fight scenes I've ever seen committed to film. Forgetting Sarah Marshall has a kinship film. You always bring that scene up of the arguing while nude, and I've always had this one in the back of my head, like, oh, you need to see this one too, because this has that same type of, and for me anyway, the awkwardness, but the normal of it, right? Of course you wouldn't get dressed to pick up the phone in the middle of the argument, and then...
It reminds me of Band-Aid. I think we watched Band-Aid.
Totally. Right?
She has that argument when she's trying to get him to impregnate her, and he's like, I don't want, they have this big fight, and she's got her top off, and all I could think was,
good call.
This is far too, like, you're far too vulnerable to put a shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of got that with this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So one of my notes is 32 minutes in, and I'm looking at my watch, which is never a good sign, because it just means the movie's too long for me. Or at least I'm not being pulled in. I was much more immersed in Trainspotting. I never looked at my watch. I never wondered I was always wondering what was coming next, and kind of fascinated by what I was seeing. I don't know why I have I love the comment, every generation believes they are seeing the end of the world, which I quite agree with. When she says, the first time he came in me, I was chained to the sink from that point on, right? The first time we had sex without a condom, is what she says.
Oh yeah, the instant we had twins. Yeah,
we instantly had twins, and I've been chained to the sink ever since. My note is, you can see there will be a long set piece later where they'll lay out all their issues of their marriage and have a fight about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
like Band-Aid.
just like you said, that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. Like, the film's very predictable, because I've seen the other two films, mm-hmm. and I know I know what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. I already know what's going on. The only surprise to me was the fact that they had twins, but as soon as I saw the twins, I was like, of course, that makes complete sense. Right. Of course, these two would have fucking twins. Mm-hmm. The two most irritating people in the world would have fucking twins. The most pampered ass irritating people in the world would have these twins.
And the whole fight is about trying to stop the fight, but everybody has to have the last word, and they can't stop it. And so even when the fire gets put out momentarily and they almost decide to have a drink of wine, nope, not even a sip of wine happens before somebody decides to fucking be a dickhead again and start the whole thing all over again. But the interesting thing about their fight is you can tell that they've probably had this fight before, and they don't ever get physical. No, nothing ever gets thrown or anything. I think it's because they're trying to find a way out of it, but they just can't. But I think now I realize the impression I get is, well, the kid talks to her more than she talks to him. Of course they're going to Chicago. She'll put the job that she didn't really want to go to anyways off for a couple more years so they can at least be a whole family unit with the kid as much time as they can have them. It's better than splitting everything up. But of course the movie's real ambiguous about that. That was just the impression I got this time, where I was like, no, I don't know if they're going to stay in the long haul, but I think they're going to try. And there is no part 4, so
It's
probably for the best.
It's like, especially the last 2 movies. It's like watching a couple kind of go through a relationship in therapy without a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Like total self-diagnosis and a lot of bad attempts at things, and it's funny. I mean, some of it's pretty well written. Like during the dinner when she kind of emasculates him, talking about, oh, you have to let him win. If you don't let him win, this and that, and and then the talk about being chained to the sink and getting knocked up, and but we sit around this dinner table, we're not really doing or saying much, right? Like nothing's going on. It's fine, but it's not really doing anything. It's just all set up for this big fucking fight that's coming. And the whole movie kind of serves to move to that point. And it's just like, I mean, look, after 27 years, like, this is what you want to do? You want to fight? Like, I guess.
Well, he even says it at one point. He says, "Is that what you want to do now that we're here? You want to have the fight?" And she's like, "Well, you started it." They immediately go to this juvenile level with it. But in the end, I think they do put the fight to the side, and she lets him win so she can win the larger battle later.
There's a few things in the movie I liked. There's a lovely moment where the old woman at the dinner describes seeing and feeling her husband, even though he's dead. That really resonated. I thought that was really, dear 40-year-old Jesse, hope you're not divorced, was a funny line.
That mirrors to the first movie where she's telling the story of seeing her dead grandmother in the sprinkler, and then she would disappear in the sunlight. So they kind of wrap that back around. But I like how it works on its own too, if you haven't seen the others.
I'm just not sure it's for me. I don't know. I admire what it is. Like, I admire the fact that it was made for $3 million, that it made 20 million. It looks good. It's well made, but I don't think it's for me. I just don't think that this is, like, I don't think that this is really good writing. I don't think that people act like this,
No, they're over the top, but I think what they do in their over the topness hits a level of reality that I'm unaccustomed to in film.
I mean, it does have a sort of charm to it at times. Was she the vulgar one in all the movies, or just this one? Because she's super vulgar
in that way. She just it chalks up more.
I couldn't remember.
Their personalities are more ramped up than
becoming
this one. They're not
turned up. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Sometimes I think you're breathing helium and I'm breathing oxygen is a pretty good line.
And it's very, very true. They can be on opposite sides at the same time. Which is, it goes back to like Slacker in Waking Life, which even has a scene with an alternate dimension, Jesse and Celine, where she's talking about her dreams are basically this reality. But if you go all the way back to Slacker, it's kind of like Linklater's weird mission statement at the beginning of that movie. He's talking about, and I got picked up at the bus stop, and if I hadn't gone there, I could have gone on this direction, because it's always a wheel of fortune, and you're picking a different path. And when you pick that one path, it cuts off all the other paths, but those other paths are still going off in that other way. And fuck, maybe I should have stayed at the bus stop, he says. But it's like, it also begs that question of, are all three of these movies happening at the same time? Because there's a lot of things that mirror in between them. Like in the second movie, she's making tea, she's happy. In the third movie, she's making tea, she's unhappy. The wine is drank in the first movie, the wine sits there undrank in the third movie. They do that shot after she storms out where it's just the shots of how still everything is, where life once was, which kind of mirrors the end of the first movie's shots. Just little things like that throughout. What else did I have here? Oh, and at one point when they're doing their walk to the motel, they show their feet. They're not in sync. Their steps are out of sync, which is, I don't know if he has as much of a foot thing as Tarantino, but I've been noticing more foot shots in the Linklater movies lately. He likes to use it as a storytelling device. Something of note that I think you'll find interesting when listening to the commentary track, and they're talking about that long driving shot in the beginning. Linklater says what his favorite long one-take shot is, and guess what it is? It's the beginning of Sullivan's Travels. And he proceeds to go off on how much he likes that movie for a couple minutes there in the commentary track.
That's cool.
And I was like, hey, what do you know? It all loops back around to that.
We found that movie because of this podcast.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that scene where they are driving and they drive past the ruins, they're like, oh, we'll see it when we go back. And it's like, oh, the old Jesse and Celine never would have driven past ruins. They would have gotten out and done shit. But when you get older, sometimes you just don't, it's not the same. And I don't have kids. You don't have kids. But I can kind of still get to that, getting a feeling of knowing what it's like maybe to be a little, deprive your kids of something that they should have because of your own, like, we ain't got the time to do that. It's like, I can understand where that would come from, but just those differences.
Well, it's I mean, the film makes it pretty obvious that he cheated on her.
Well, maybe she did too. It's possible,
And he's obsessed with her giving blowjobs for some reason.
Mm-hmm. They know how to dig at each other too. Yeah.
It's Ethan Hawke described Before Sunrise as a film about what might be. Before Sunset was a film about what could or should be, and Before Midnight is a film about what is. Mm-hmm. And I don't agree with that. Like, if this is how people see relationships, I would say, this is not probably a great example of one. Sniping each other and letting shit simmer for years and going at each other is not a healthy relationship.
No, but it can be a place where some people have been at certain times in their life.
Sure, sure, absolutely.
And the reflection of that, agree. Where I was like, oh yeah. I remember the first time I saw it was just like, ooh, this is like, I've never seen a movie capture some of that fucking vibe of the silence and the.
I've never seen a movie do a thing where it goes, here's hope, and it didn't pan out. And then not only that it didn't pan out, but we're going to kick the shit out of it and then bury it somewhere. Yeah. Like, it's like this romantic thing in the beginning and then sort of a rekindling of that romance. And you go from will they to they are to, oh no, they never should have. Because they can't fucking stand each other, apparently.
It's the repercussions of following your heart. He missed that flight, and so he chose that path. All the other paths are cut off, and this is the one that. But ultimately,
she seems pretty bitter about it.
Yeah, and it's so funny because they're in paradise. They got two great kids. They shouldn't have any on the surface, but sometimes, and we're past that age now too, because that's an early 40s. Argument they're having. We're already in our 50s, so you could look back and like their friend at the table, you could tell they've probably been together 6 or 7 years longer than Jesse and Celine. They're past that bullshit, and so they know how to oh, we're not fighting with the knife. We're okay with each other because we've been together long enough that a lot of that early bullshit is out of the way.
Or maybe it's just a better fit as a
Well,
relationship.
that could be too.
And I think
that's what I like, the ambiguous of it. Yeah.
I think he has regret over his kid. I think she has regret over staying with him. I think they're both kind of bitter with each other, and it's sad. I wouldn't want to watch a fourth movie because figure a fourth movie would just be him and her old just talking shit about each other at a nursing home or some shit why the grandkids don't come to fucking visit or whatever.
Yeah, because you don't really need it because they even cover like 80-year-old and all that. So you don't really, and we've gone 12 years now. So I don't think I think it just fits as a trilogy. And even in some of the making of stuff, they said they felt like they were kind of done this time too. So
one of the things I will say is this is one of those things. It's like, you've said this before. Well, I guess I'm going to be the contrarian, right? Because you seem to be pretty into these three films. They seem to talk to you. They seem to speak to you. They seem to resonate with you, and they're just not doing it for me. Like, I'm not picking up on that, and I'm not enjoying watching them. And I keep thinking, all right, what the fuck am I missing here? And so I mean, it's quite possible I'll go back and watch these again. And it could be as simple as sometimes you're just in a weird headspace or in your weird place of your life, and that art doesn't hit the way it would later on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think I may end up a year or two down the road, probably revisiting these just to see if I was I wrong, or is there something here? And because a lot of times I'll go, nope, I was right.
Mm-hmm.
That was a waste of my time. But then every now and then you'll go back and you'll go, oh, man, what was I thinking? I actually really like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I just can't. I really couldn't get into any of the three of these movies at all. They just were not my cup of tea.
And yet I still feel like it wasn't lost on you or anything, because you picked up on some of the key parts and you really liked those. So
I definitely watched it, and it had. I'm not saying that they're terrible movies.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I admire what Linklater did. I really admire the fact that he kept the same two actors for 27 years and did these three films.
None of it's improv.
That's pretty brilliant shit.
It's all written.
That's pretty brilliant. And he did it on a shoestring budget, and kind of pulling them away from other things they were doing. I'm sure they didn't get paid much. But yeah,
I also liked,
did we do the first one of these in,
I think we did them all this season. Yeah.
All this season? Is that right? Okay.
I think so.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Let me see here. So we did Before Sunrise. I gave it a 1.5 star. And then we did, where's the other one?
Sunset, episode 24.
Episode 24 was Before Sunset?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Man, you gave that 2.5.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm going to give this.
You're going to give this one 2.5 as well? All
yeah.
right.
Yeah. I'm going to give this one 2.5.
It's funny how, Raimi and a lot of those horror guys are the ones that really help spark me wanting to be a filmmaker. But the more, I exist as a human, I guess, and watch movies and stuff, I do realize that if there was a voice that I feel I'm most similar to, it's Linklater, because I've seen almost all of his movies, and almost all of them, there's something in there that's hitting me on some deeper level. I don't know what it is, but it's just like, if you look back at the fucking play I wrote in 92 for high school in a creative drama class, it was basically like, it feels like Slacker. It's just people sitting around, philosophizing with each other. I think it was some of those elements I tried to put in the early draft of one of our scripts, where it's just like, no, you don't want to come off as preachy, but you also don't want to come off as pretentious. And I think that's some of that similar thing. Like, I like when they're having that dinner speech and they're talking about AI and shit, and it's like, ooh, you guys are like a little bit of ahead of yourself there by about 13 years or so. It's like, that's relevant now.
Yeah, I have a crude note here that I didn't want to read it, but it said, "Gotta plug our genitals into a GE fuck device and get it on in the virtual world." because that's kind of what they were talking about. It made me laugh. Where I was just like, you guys are just almost ahead of the, yeah.
And he went on to make a Scanner Darkly, so it totally makes sense. You know, you got a weird thematic approach to these things. I guess.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of Linklater's. I like his movies for sure.
Yeah, I think my last note here is they've become the German couple on the train at the beginning of part 1 by the end of part 3. What are they arguing about? Was, I think, the first thing they ever said to each other when they meet on that train. Mm-hmm. It's weird because I was watching Slacker again. Also, I was trying to do the extra credit. I didn't get all the way through Waking Life either, but Slacker starts with because Linklater's in the movie himself, and he's asleep on a train, and then he gets up, and it's like, so he just has this train motif, which is why I was saying you could call this Trainspotting. Maybe the first one. So
what'd you give it?
I give it 5.
Really?
I give it 5 with an asterisk because for me, this is one of my favorite movies, period. It does things that I just haven't seen in anything else. And the couple times that I sat through it this week, even with the commentary track, it still got me in several moments in different ways. And so I was like, oh shit, then I guess it is there. But it also caused me to reevaluate other things that I've been giving lower ratings to, like Sorcerer, for example. And it's like, well, those movies hit things too. And so it makes me think there is no greatest movie of all time. There's just the greatest. You kind of hit a level of perfection and you all sit alongside each other as must-see greatest things. So
yeah, there's definitely a tier. There's a greatest tier. Yeah. And then amongst those, you can battle it out on who's amongst that, but there's definitely a tier for sure. I'm shocked you're going to give that 5 stars, but okay, that's fine.
Oh,
that's why we're here.
It's one of my tops. Yeah. And I know I know they're over the top with their acting, but there's just something in it that it achieves moments of harsh reality. But all those times you kept bringing up forgetting Sarah Marshall, I was just like, oh, but there's this other movie, and then we had Band-Aid even in there too, so maybe we'll cover Sarah Marshall.
Well, forgetting Sarah Marshall works just because it's so awkward.
Yeah,
it's not even, I mean, I do feel like, again, the Band-Aid and the other one it wasn't funny at all. There was nothing funnier to laugh at in either one of those.
That's true. That one's even more awkward. Mm-hmm.
Naked arguing is a weird thing in movies.
And those are definitely the king of naked arguing films, I'd say.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that.
But next week for the season finale of season 2 of Talking Pondo. You want me to go first?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so years ago when I was watching a bunch of movies for about 2 months, I was watching 2 or 3 movies a day. I went through all the rest of these Linklater films and stuff, and then so I was reading on Wikipedia, like, what's his favorite movie of all time, blah, blah. And so if it's not his favorite movie of all time, it's one of them. And it was mentioned in today's movie even. And so I think it's a perfect fit for the end of the season that all roads have been leading to Marlon Brando and On the Waterfront.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And it will all make perfect sense next week, if it doesn't already.
Well, okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. So, I guess we're going to be watching black and white movies this week.
Hey, perfect.
Because my film is also in black and white, and it's another classic. I don't think you've seen it. If we had talked about this one, I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you haven't. If you have, well, screw it. You'll enjoy it anyways. So you're going to watch Stalag 17.
Oh, I have not seen that.
And this, as you watch, it's the first movie I ever watched where I became aware of, like, oh, television shows can be based on movies. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And they can be kind of different, but the same.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Well, something where everybody wears something different, but the same, I got to get out of these uniforms, man.
Don't beg me one.
Oh, in the kitchen. I knew that was
Oh. Well, it's all about aesthetics and fuck all to do with morality, Marty.
Yeah. I did really like that part where she's talking about forcing herself to remember the details of his face and shit. I know it's overly sentimental. But...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice.
Oh, are we doing that final line thing?
I just did mine.
Just did. Okay. Still there, gone.
I'm going to be just like you. All right, man. Next week.
Yep.
Later.
Support the show on Buzzsprout for only $3 a month. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify or the platform of your choice. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page.